I want to say first and foremost that this particular topic discussion isn't something easy to point to, but people do it everywhere in their own stride, which is a really cool part of all of it. Today we're talking about the citizen story and how we need to have a paradigm shift from the consumer story, but more so we're going to be talking about what these people actually take up in their causes in their own life as a way to kind of bring about a new sense, a new vitalization of like active citizenry going forward. Hey.
What's going on, Tony? What's
Hey,
going on?
hey, what's up, Tony? What's up, bro?
How's it going, fellas? You guys looking good.
Hey, Tripp. Good evening.
Good evening, everybody. Really appreciate y'all coming in and sitting with me. So, the citizen story paradigm shift is kind of, like I said at the beginning, very amalgamous, very kind of broad. There's very, very many different ways we can tackle this, and I think that the variety of guests that I have today, hi Brie, is going to kind of show for that out throughout the conversation. But to start off with, this idea really is taking an active role in our lives as a community. Hey, buddy. And we're joined by my friend James. All right, so we're all in the spot now. I really appreciate once again y'all coming up and being with me. I think for almost everybody, kind of talk a little bit about your lane and how I really appreciate you guys enacting citizen stories, even if you may not have like read the same text as I have, because you guys are doing it in spades. Mm-hmm. First and foremost, I just want to take a few minutes to go around and kind of introduce ourselves, kind of lay out your platform a little bit, and kind of talk about what you do. We'll go ahead and just go clockwise. So my buddy Lawrence is going to go up first. Thank you so much for being here, my friend.
Absolutely, my pleasure. I am Lawrence Seals, a farmer, a homesteader, and hyperlocal food system enthusiast. We created the app Farm First 24/7 to facilitate our own market, because we believe a transparent food system is what we're calling for as everyday average citizens. And so we took the step forward to create just that. And yes, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm looking forward to sharing my little spiel.
Right on. Thank you for that, my friend. Tony, go ahead and say some words for us.
Hi, everyone. It's just so awesome to see everyone's faces in these boxes. I'm honored to be here next to you all. I'm Tony, and I'm just an advocate for community building in whatever way people have the energy to do so. I'm also a champion of people finding their gifts and using those gifts to live their higher purpose in life, which usually ends up being something surrounding connectivity and truth and all sorts of fun things. So I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here, man. James, I know you've only got a short time with us because you're a busy guy, but I appreciate you sitting up with us. Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Sure thing. Yes, my name is James Lee. Very excited to be with you guys today. I'm sorry I only have about half an hour. Some of you all I've already met before, some new faces as well. So look forward to seeing what you guys are all about. And for me, I am an independent journalist, so I look into a lot of stuff that's related to corruption or conflicts of interest of any kind. And really, my goal is to help regular people just kind of understand how to process information, how to think for themselves, and just kind of know that maybe we don't exactly know what the truth is, but the truth might not. The truth is definitely not what we're being told, and to kind of empower people to find that path for them, whatever that might look like. So excited to be with you guys today.
Awesome, man. Yeah, thank you for what you do, and thank you for being here. It is truly appreciated. My friend Brie, wonderful to have you on the panel as well. Some female representation. Until Tiffany joins us, right? We need it. Please, say some words for us.
Greetings, words. First, right off the bat, I was very excited for every face I saw in this live. Like I follow every single one of you, and I'm a big fan of all. So it's great to be here. I dedicated my page to a lot of what James is doing and a lot of what we all like to do, which is really connecting people to the right sources. It's a huge thing, and I like to connect citizens to resources that help them make up their own minds, because we deserve it, and we're smart enough to do that. So yeah, I put a bunch of free stuff on my page, and I just want to help, and so it was really exciting to find out that you were doing this live, because this is right up my alley. So thanks for having me.
Your altruistic way of like sharing the information that you so want to learn and then turn around and share is like, yeah, one of the reasons I think you perfectly exemplify the citizen story. So thank you for that. David, thank you so much for joining us today. Your entire anti-apathy campaign movement, I think personally, is a citizen story in its own regard. But thank you for being here. Please.
Well, hey, thank you for having me again, Tripp. Good to see everybody here on the panel. Lawrence, Tony, Brie, love your stuff. James, as Brie said, I follow everybody here. I'm grateful to be a part of leaders like you folks that you are. What am I doing? I picked the moniker "The Catalyst" because I wanted to be something that created positive change in my circle of influence and in the world. And I believe that we all have that potential, and that, all of the chaos that we see happening in the world today is happening because of apathy. It's happening because that people are feeling downtrodden, they feel powerless, they feel hopeless, and they're just kind of putting their hands up to say, somebody help me, somebody do something. And unfortunately, that somebody is in the mirror. We have got to develop the resilience. We've got to develop the coping skills. We've got to develop the courage to do the work to become the change that we want to see. And so we have the power of this app. We have the power of social media now, something that our ancestors and generations before us never had. They literally had to go to the church or go to the Y or go to the VFW and physically meet. Now we have the ability to reach thousands, millions of people. And so with my channel and my social media, with my platforms, my goal is, again, to create a movement of change, a movement of consciousness through the anti-apathy campaign. I came up with that back in 2006, right before I started working on Obama's campaign. And I saw all of this consternation going back and forth between people. And I wasn't very political at the time. But I was engaged as a citizen, and I accept my responsibility as a citizen. And so I said, what can I do that's nonpartisan, that is just pursuing fairness and good work and goodwill? And that's where the anti-apathy campaign came from. And then shortly after that, we started the Smith Foundation for Excellence, which produces about 10 community-based programs that are designed to do this work, whether it be youth mentorship, political activism, outreach to seniors. We have a Brothers Brunch, which is a group where men get together and deal with issues that men deal with. We have Operation Mama, which is a senior outreach program. So we have a nonprofit organization that does a ton of work in the community, and we are looking for volunteers. We're looking for people who are ready to get to work to be that change.
And see, that right there is like, because the way that you've kind of like started like a top organization that spreads into so many different styles of community in this engaging process and kind of flushing out the apathy that we need to kind of get rid of, which is definitely a big like sword or shield or some sort of weapon that the consumer story loves to inflict upon us as consumers. It's like we just be apathetic about it, we just pay for what we need to, and then we go on from there. I'm going to really quickly change the panel lineup here real quick to this guy, now that we're all acquainted and whatnot. So really, I find this, so a lot of this, for me personally, stems from the book Citizens, Why the Key to Fixing Everything is All of Us by Jon Alexander. This is the text that has spurred me into an inspiration to start doing these live discussions, as well as working on the right to food initiatives and all of the lanes that I have going on. But like what I see amongst these people here and what they're doing in their own lanes, basically, is a call to, like, in the barest of terms, wake up, kind of see our surroundings for what they are, see the kind of the tune that's being played, and to realize that we have a part and we can change it for a better and brighter future. We don't have to be lulled into the state of the world is on fire and there's nothing to do about it. I know that my buddy Tony likes to say that the world's always been on fire and there's always been something to do about it. So like there is that kind of that idea. So I really quickly just want to run through y'all's titles that, to be perfectly frank, Pi, the personal AI assistant, and I came up with together because I needed the help. Like, there was a bunch of words in my brain. I just needed them to be organized really well. So Lawrence, when I spoke about Pi about you, it came up back with food security advocate and community builder, which I think is pretty poignant, pretty on the nose. I love like how you showcase the community meetings and stuff that you've done. It's fantastic. Tony, bridge builder. It said unity facilitator, but I think cooperation facilitator kind of fits a little better because unity is harder to achieve. David, the street level activism that you do is first and foremost in the citizen story, but like just the spider web of things that you have going on, it's fantastic. And then to Brie, it pegged you as the knowledge seeker, the political awareness champion, and like there's big P politics and small P politics, and we'll get into both of those in these conversations. And then James, the fact finder, an alternate news champion. The idea that you can, media literacy came about a lot in the chat with Pi and I about how it's really important to have people kind of think around the realms of like what's being programmed to us. So like all of these and many, many more are kind of avenues into this idea of we can do for ourselves. We don't have to depend on big conglomerations or giant governments to do for us. We can create something new ourselves. And so from that, anybody who feels like they have words, I just kind of want to open the floor. Anybody? All right, Tony, go ahead. Got you.
First of all, if you guys don't have the book, I already have some bookmarks for the conversation tonight. Read it. And I feel like, David, you're going to feel similar things that I did. It's like everything that we talk about, because there's always this epiphany that people have where it's like something is kind of fundamentally wrong about the way we're going about this whole thing we're calling society. Consumerism took us to a place, and we can argue, is that a good place, a bad place? Well, it's a different place than we were 100 years ago. And that's about probably all we should say about that here. But there's this fundamental moment where you start to think, well, it's about the relationship I have with other people. It's about the relationship I have with the people in my community, and like how excited can we get to get something done? To make something exciting, to make something feel like it's worth living here and that we do actually have a say in our surroundings. And when you start to really dig into all the various ways that you can be an active citizen, this dude distills it down pretty well. And as I read it, I kept getting frustrated over and over again. I'm like, well, I've been saying this for 10, 15 years. Why didn't I write the book? Well, I didn't write the book, and he did. And for anybody in the space, definitely read it. I'm just going to jump to one of my favorite things he says, which is all of us are smarter than any of us. And that knocked my socks off when he said it. And I wanted to argue with it a little bit. I was like, yeah, but what about in some people, and I don't know how I feel about it. And then eventually I'm like, no, it's true. All of us are smarter than any of us. And that sense of cooperation happens when we start to step back from what he calls the consumer paradigm. Like, we live life as consumers. So for example, we talk about climate change. What we're presented to address climate change is usually a choice between products. It's something we buy, and it's usually hardly better than the other. One is liquid dinosaurs that people fight wars over in territory, and it's awful. And the other solution, like 70% of it's mined in China, and they would get the entire economy for it. And it's usually mined by people we don't want mining this stuff, namely underpaid people and miners, and not the miners digging. It's like MINORS. So it's really shitty choice, but it's between two different products. And that's a nightmare for us. And that's all we are to this system, are people making choices between products, and we consume. And the more we start to step back from that and we start to look, well, how can I build? How can I help? What can we do differently? Well, now that's a conversation. And that's a conversation everybody's welcome to, actually, because all of us are smarter than any of us. And we might find some ideas in some unlikely places from across political aisles, from people we wouldn't necessarily take life advice from. And here they are from the corner of the town hall meeting saying some shit you would have never thought of. And it's pretty good. You're like, wow, okay, well, shit, we all have something to say here. And this is so succinct and nice, and it tells it in the way that I would tell it. So I'm first of all going to take my time here to sell the book. And as we dig into it, I guess we can go. I do want to read one thing out of it, though. And I think this should be the foundation for this conversation. And Tripp, you can disagree. It's your show, but I'm going to put that out on the table. He's talking about hope, the citizen's hope. It is a hope that I sustain in my own life by asking myself each and every day the third and final big question of a series of questions he's asking here at the end. I have developed on this journey, which I now offer you as a parting gift. And this hurt my feelings a little bit, man. It would knock my socks off. What would you do in this time if you truly believed in yourself and those around you? And I'm like, okay, we'll see you guys later.
Yeah, it hit me hard too, bro. I feel you. I do.
Like,
Thank
wow,
you for
okay.
that.
Okay.
And you're right. You
Really poignant considering the dock workers went on strike. And, you know, it is really hard to fight the hand that feeds you. That's no small thing, especially when they know what kind of, like, you know, what the stakes are. Like, it's really important. Like, I know I'm doing right. I know our cause is good. Like, sorry, I didn't mean to check the conversation. It felt poignant and to your point.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. I will say that when it comes to timeliness of this, I did not expect it to fall so like that. But yes, we see something occurring in this current iteration of the story we are all being told and telling ourselves, which Jon Alexander posits is the consumer story. I want to talk about, you know, there's these ideas within it, like with the longshoremen choosing to go on strike for better pay, better wages, better, you know, livelihood as it is in general. The call here, of course, to stand with the workers, because we are, I mean, this is the 99 and the 1, really. Like, this is, you know, it's that sort of deal. The people who enjoy the consumer story and want to have it told until the end of time are the ones at the top. And, like, the rest of us are just told that this is the way things are and that this is the best that we can make them. But that is just, that's not even a fragment of the truth. That's just like the status quo trying to kind of rein in its power and what it is. But what we have done and what each of us have taken on separately is this idea that we, the citizens, can do for ourselves in various different lanes, whether we're talking about food, political activism. And then, like, there's, of course, the idea of big P politics, the voting every 2 to 4 years and being politically engaged. And then there's the idea of small p politics, which is how we interact with each other in community on a day-to-day basis and, like, deal and work with each other, our coworkers, our friends, our families. We deal with this stuff daily. And so, like, that kind of idea that people say they're not political peoples, like they're only thinking of like a fragment of what politics actually is, and that's kind of an important part of the story as well. So, James, would you like to say anything? 'Cause we're coming up on the half-hour mark. Yeah.
I was going to add to the point of optimism, because I actually feel at this point extremely optimistic, and I'll tell you why. Is because in terms of the media and information ecosystem, we've never been more able to participate. If you think back maybe 60, 70 years, you know, the information flow was really controlled by 3 big news corporations, right? And only if you wanted to say something, you had to go through those distribution channels. And today, there's so much more access to not only information, but also distribution of that information. Each one of us can feel it right now, right? We're, as far as I'm concerned, not employed by any of the big 3 corporations or any of the giant media conglomerates, but we have an audience. We have an audience that we're able to communicate with, that we can broadcast to. And so that means each of us has a stake in this. All of us can contribute in our own little ways, whether you're a professional content creator, you do this full time, or you do it some of the time, part-time, or you make a video once in a while when it inspires you. We all can participate now, which is truly empowering. And that's why I feel that there is such a large effort to control the information space. You see that with kind of censorship, whether you agree with some of the things being said out there. I think, at least for me, it's much more important to have the ability to say things and then to counter that, let's call it bad speech, with more speech to correct and try to change other people's opinions. And this past weekend, I was just at a rally in DC. It's called the Rescue the Republic rally. There was an amalgamation of different types of people there. There were Trump supporters there, a lot of people there from the Kennedy campaign. I saw some liberal, more leftist people there as well, that all attended this. And, one of the things that struck me, I was out there doing interviews with a bunch of people in the crowd, is that we all have to we all should be open to listening to other people. And that's how we grow stronger as a community. Because a lot of times what I see from what I would call the more mainstream press is to kind of section us off into different areas, different buckets, and say, hey, these people, you shouldn't listen to these people at all. These people aren't real people. These people are awful people. But that necessarily is a divide and conquer strategy, which is, I guess, would benefit the people who are in power. But if we want to talk about bringing us together, having that openness to listen to somebody who maybe shares very little with you, or maybe shares half or 75% of your views, is really important in terms of coming together. And that was kind of the big aha moment for me, at least this weekend, was to listen to people who are like, wow, I did not agree with that, but at the end of our conversation, we all knew that we were good people and that we wanted the best for this nation. We might disagree on the path there, but if we don't open our hearts to one another, it's never going to happen.
Well said. Well said. And yeah, I think a place like that where you see people from all over the political spectrum and like just life spectrum in general is kind of a great mix to this idea that like people at the end of the day are people, and like no matter like what we think, we're all, human beings, and like, there should be a solidarity just in that alone. But then on top of that, it doesn't really matter what we think, it matters what we do. It's something I say all the time. And trust me, most of you don't know what it is I'm thinking, but it's some crazy, crazy stuff. And so like, it doesn't really matter, because like at the end of the day, my actions mean more. It's going to be a bigger ripple in this world than like what's going on in here. But the idea to be able to reach across the aisle, as it was once known, to see the other side and come to a middle ground, to compromise, really is something a kind of a lost art, which is sad. But that's part of what this citizen story calls for, is like a revitalization in the ability to cooperate and move forward. So let's see, who else would like to speak? Wait, real quick. I just want to say thank you to everybody who's liking and sharing and sending it out there into the world, building up this audience for us. I really, really appreciate you folks. Thank you so much. If you don't follow these guys already, why not? Go ahead and pick them up now. Because they're definitely worth it. This is some of the people that are going to be changing the story of the world if we have our way about it. So like, get on board now while you can. But yes,
thank you, Tripp, by the way, I just want to say, as a last word for me, thank you so much for organizing a space like this, because it takes an incredible, at least I know that it takes an incredible amount of work to organize, get all of us together at the same time, and people have schedules that are switching up, and I know that you do it because you really care. And you want to, do your part. So just want to give a round of applause to Tripp for organizing this whole thing. And I'm going to be kind of on the go for the next little bit. So I'm going to try to stay on. I'm going to mute myself and still absorb the information as I have to get in my car and drive. But I appreciate all of you guys, and definitely for those who I haven't had the opportunity to speak to, I'm definitely going to check out more of your content and hopefully connect in the near future.
Solid.
Thank you, guys.
Solid. Thank you for. Yes, be safe. Thank you for being here. And yeah, definitely, the space of connections also definitely play a part in these panels. I want these faces to know each other, because I see them doing good work and all that. So, but yes, please be safe on your journeys and your adventures, my friend. Who would like to speak up next?
Go ahead, Brie. If you have something.
Well, I just so you know, I'm sitting like this because since I had the back surgery, I seem to have like a little bit of an issue with sitting up. So I just needed some help with my neck. But otherwise, Tiffany's here. I'd rather do that.
Hey.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you're recovering well and you're moving around. Obviously, that was a scary time to see you
Yeah.
go through that whole back surgery thing.
Thanks for sticking with me on that one.
Yeah, 100%. Listen, I definitely have got a lot to say on this piece. I'll try to be brief and succinct. When I started the Smith Foundation, I started with the concept that doing nothing was not an option, right? And over these last 15 years or so, I've just seen the apathy and the hopelessness of Americans just increase, right? I've seen the myopic attitude, the me first attitude, the selfishness that has become just typical for American culture. We're not kind. We don't hold doors open for each other. We don't take our carts back. We're not thoughtful. We have got to change our culture. So the question for me is like, how do we do that, right? How do we change our culture to something that is more collaborative? How do we reach people to help them to realize that, hey, we the people, the preamble of the Constitution starts with we the people. And this is not about politics. Politics is not our problem. Our problem is our lack of shared values, our lack of decency, our lack of kindness and compassion and collaboration and the pursuit of truth and critical thinking and accountability and responsibility. That's our real problem. Because once we can start to rediscover our shared values and the sense that, hey, I need to collaborate with the folks. It's okay that I don't agree with Tony on everything. That doesn't mean Tony's my enemy because we disagree. Right? It just means Tony's got a different perspective because Tony's got a different life. He's walked in different shoes. There's that whole image of two people looking at at what looks to be a 6. Right? Are y'all familiar with this? There's a 6 there's a number on the floor. And depending on what side of that number you're on, it could either be a 6 or it could be a 9, right? And so the metaphor there, the takeaway is it all depends on your perspective, where you're standing, right? And so if I'm standing on a side that looks like a 9, I've got to have good coping skills, good conflict resolution skills, good communication skills, and the courage to say to Tony, hey, Tony, man, it looks like a 9 from over here. Let me come around to your side and look at it from where you're looking at. Because the way I'm seeing it, it looks like a 9. And when we can do that, then, and stop vilifying each other, stop talking to and listening to people with platforms who tell you to hate somebody else because they have a different perspective. When we can start to do that, then we can start to collaborate to fix healthcare, to fix food, to fix education, to fix energy policy, to fix the military industrial complex. We could fix it all if we were working together. And so that's what I'm trying to do with the Smith Foundation. And that's what I need volunteers, people who are passionate about those different things. We're not all going to be passionate about education. Great. Go sit with the people on the education committee. Right? We're not all going to be passionate about legislation and writing policy. Great. Go get with the people who are sitting on the political action committee and they're writing policy and they're calling up senators, right? Everybody's got a lane, but doing nothing is not an option. And so that's what I'm encouraging people to do.
I appreciate that. Yeah, no, in spades, I absolutely love that. Brie, I'm going to go ahead and let you speak because it sounds like you had some words, and then I'm going to give Tiffany the floor right after that because she has finally joined us from her long day at work. But go ahead, Miss Brie.
Oh, you're a champion coming in right after work. I was just going to just highlight the fact that you were correct. Like when you look at us versus the world, we are some of the most generous people on the planet, and capitalism has done its very best to make us broke and tired and not wanting to help their friend move on the weekend. And, we have to remember that the system is designed to make us tired so that, we don't ask for a better standard of life, and it works really well. But what I do love about the country is the fact that we stay generous and we stay nice, no matter how hard we're doing it. It's like, look at what's happening with the weather events. Like, people are helping each other out, you know. So even though we're poised to do that, we still have, you know, we're just up against a mountain in that all of our ways of communicating are ran by people who do not want us to be talking about this kind of stuff. So I'll admit, I don't have the answers to that, but you are correct in saying, like, how do we do it? It's what I want to do. Because unity is, you know, kind of the way out of all of the issues you mentioned. Like, if we just had an equal amount of power, we already agree on so much of that, we would be able to fix it. I mean, it's kind of stunning how much we agree on and nobody talks about it.
Well, I think,
Yeah, no.
well, I think one of the biggest things, and the answer to that is, we have got to give people action items with our platforms. Think about it. Think about how many of us have platforms, and when we finish talking, we don't give an action item and say, hey, I just made you aware of X going on with your elected official. You need to take these steps now, right? You need to own your title as a citizen and a neighbor and engage. That's what's got to happen. People have got to accept the fact that, you know, citizenship comes with duties and responsibilities. This is not just I get rights, but you also got responsibilities. And right now we're so selfish. People just are like, my rights, my rights, my rights. But what are you doing, citizen, neighbor? What are you doing to be a solution generator for the issues that face your community? So it's got to be called to actions.
You're absolutely right, my friend. You're absolutely right. And you're actually giving me a perfect layup and segue. I'm going to go ahead and do the same lovely introduction for Tiffany as I did for all y'all. Because when I was talking to Pi about Tiffany specifically, I mean, first of all, I took time with each of you guys because I really wanted to like flush it out. Pi gave me Changemaker, which I think is pretty legitimate, and Empowerment Instigator. Now, I wanted to take this from the fact that, Tiffany, you do a lot. And a lot of what you do comes from a place of like necessity, like having to fight private equity because of, you know, the way they have gone in on you. But you also do things like the kids, you know, the toy drive at Christmas and all these other sorts of things where you engage in such a way where you're not only providing such experience and lovely things for the people around you or what have you, but you're also inspiring other people to do so as well. And I think that is the instigator part of it. Like, it's one of those things where you do inspire people to like move and be active and do things. That's like, I think a large section of your platform are people who at one point didn't do much, but now like see the writing on the wall and like, you know, and because of that, the tide is changing and things are turning. So if you would, are in a good place to speak, I would love to turn the floor over to you, my dear Miss Tiffany.
I can't turn my camera on, but I can certainly speak.
That's fine.
So first of all, that was such a thoughtful introduction. Thank you, Trippy. I appreciate it. I believe I grew up the hard way. Lots of people grow up the hard way. I grew up the hard way. I grew up an adult way too young. I grew up, you know, in a foster household. I grew up with a bunch of foster siblings. I grew up in a place where we didn't have clothes and we didn't have food. And I grew up very food insecure. I grew up in a way that made it where if nobody had ever taken care to do the hard thing for us, I don't know if I would have made it out. And so even though a lot of growing up the hard way is very, very dark, and it is a very dark way to grow up, the only thing you have to reference that, like the only frame of reference you have for that darkness, are the points of light that make it so you can evolve and become more. I tell a lot of people that foster care does one of two things. It will either define you or it will motivate you to greatness. That's it. There's no in between. Every foster sibling I have is doing something amazing or they went to jail. There's no one in between. 26 of them. That's where they are. And I have these small glimmers of places in my life where there were very positive things. And every one of those positive things was accompanied by somebody that did a hard thing because it was the right thing to do. or because they wanted to change something for me or somebody in my sphere of influence. I find that those people are everywhere around us, but most of them are too tired, too overburdened, too exhausted, or too lacking in direction to know how to start to do what needs to be done. But I also find that when you give people the capacity to do something good, oftentimes most people will take that path if it's a path that they can take without harming themselves or their family, their kids. And so I work really hard to make it as easy as possible for people to do good. Because when people start doing good, I generally believe they're motivated to keep doing good. And that if they do one small thing, it leads to bigger things. And those bigger things lead to bigger things. And that's how movements begin. Private equity, sure, that is born of necessity, but it's not. At any moment, I could have taken the settlement, signed the NDA, and walked away. So it may have been a necessity when it started, but it wasn't the easy path, and it wasn't, I took the hardest path possible, but I've definitely made more change than anyone ever believed I could. And that's because some good people, lots of them on this app, walked with me when I asked for people to walk with me. When it comes to the foster kids, I wouldn't have had Christmas without people like me. I refuse to let a child go without Christmas because there aren't people like me. And a lot of people follow me every year. And I'm grateful for every single one of them. Because I remember what it was like to not have Christmas. And I remember the years that we did have Christmas. And those are very, very important moments. Those are life-changing moments. So for me, that's where it comes from and that's where it goes. I believe right now that the world is a very dark place. We're more divided than we've ever been. And at the same time, we're just distracted from the fact that we're also as unified as we've ever been. We just believe what they tell us. You know, my favorite stat, every time I go on any stage, we have between 88 and 93% of all of our values in common. That's the average in the United States. That's for the person with the Confederate flag and the person with the BLM and Pride flag in their windows. 88 to 93% of what they believe they have in common. And they want us to believe that 7% divides us and puts us at opposite ends of the world. Because as long as we hate each other, we won't work together to fight for good. And we'll keep letting corporations and terrible people derail the good that we're trying to do. But I think that we're getting smarter. And I think that places like this are making that possible.
Yeah.
So for
absolutely.
me, that's the purpose and that's the why and that's the how.
So well said. Thank you so much for sharing with us, my dear, and for being here because I'm like every other person on this panel, I see you guys enacting the citizen story in like spades and doing so like with conviction because you see that it's needed. Like you all see that what your lanes are, the avenues which you're pursuing are, required for us to, try and get us out of this hole of, this consumerism status quo that is, choking the planet and having us, the division, that 7% is trying to get us into that small atomized area to where, we feel completely isolated from those around us and it separates us from the whole. Like, it takes us out of the collective. Whereas we're all on one planet. Like, when you span out enough, like on a large enough scale, we're all on one rock together. And so in that essence, we really need to kind of focus up and realize that, where we do agree and that is what matters and where we can move forward. And so the positions that we take, whether it be, food, politics, knowledge, self-help, like all of these different avenues in which that it's all a part of the same. Like I said, every one of these things, it's all connected. All of it's connected. It's such a big conversation. We can't have it all at once. We have to have it in chunks. And so in this section of the conversation, the motivations that we have to do better for ourselves and our community, this idea of not asking ourselves what is best for me, which is what the consumer story wants us to inevitably stay tuned into, but instead asking the question of what is good for us as a collective, as a whole. And like that shift to an interdependent style of thinking can radically change a lot of different things, a lot of different industries, a lot of different practices that we currently take on as Americans. It can change a whole lot. So that being said, I would really love to open the floor back up to anything that people would love to say.
Tony.
Go ahead, Tony.
All right. So a part of this that I really love is talking about, in this book, he goes into defining what an equity punk is, and references Brewdog, which is an Ohio brewery. You know, I'm an Ohio boy. So the idea of shifting the way we fundamentally handle commerce between one another and the exchange of goods, right? Like, that is a step, you know, and that begs to mind, how many other ways can I start to affect this system, right? And so what Lawrence and Farm Fresh are doing, that's like, you're fundamentally shifting perspectives on a very basic thing, and it's imaginative, and it's a, hey, let's fuck around and find out, and maybe it'll work, and maybe it won't, but we're going to keep doing it. And what we find is, when we reach out in these types of ways, and it is built on connection and human connection, again, believing in myself and believing in other people, you know, trusting that, yeah, if we get this going, then we can handle the responsibility of keeping it afloat, this new idea, this new approach to things. Because if it's outside the current paradigm, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be awkward. There's going to be growing pains and some stumbling that goes on in those first few steps, inevitably. And that's just in general. Running a small business is intense. You know, most fail within the first year, and then the next domino effect happens in 5, and there's a bunch of contributing factors. But that's to say that being a business owner and trying to run the damn thing is very stressful. On top of trying to facilitate community now, right? If you're the facilitator of this, and now you have to trust that other people are going to show up and put in. My time working as director of a chamber of commerce, we also did the Visitors Bureau. And the Visitors Bureau would get bed tax money. So anytime somebody stays in one of the hotels in the town, there's a little chunk taken right off of nobody's, you know, they don't pay extra. It's just like already in the hotel fee, I guess, or we get the hotel paid us. That's what it was. And so then we can use that to increase tourism, to encourage people to work there. And I'll tell you that the people that show up for a community event to get things together, to make sure that there's a generator and, you know, some Christmas lights up in the Christmas tree in the park, and we're going to do a lighting, and we're going to hire a Santa Claus, and it's totally free. Nobody's got to pay any to get into this. And there's some vendor opportunities where small business, you know, you sell your handmade jewelry, or maybe you make kettle corn, and, you know, there's some, you know, financial opportunity there. But the point I'm trying to make is the types of people that show up, the varied types of people that show up, it'll always surprise you. And sometimes you'll find your curmudgeons and the people who are sticks in the mud, and yes, they exist, and yes, it's frustrating, and, you know, go to your friends and gripe about it after work, I guess. Like, they're just here on planet Earth, and we keep trying. And people probably feel that way about me sometimes, you know? So it's like, yeah, I guess it's all fair. But what I'm trying to say is, if we give people the benefit of the doubt and we start trusting ourselves and trusting other people, the myriad of ways that we can show up and change this reality paradigm it's fascinating. And I think we all just need to give ourselves a chance to explore that with our imaginations, because it instills hope. When people come across this type of thinking, and when they see you doing something new and it's working, that's inspiration. That's hope. It's like, well, maybe human beings aren't all trash bags, like the Hot Topic shirts say at the mall. Like, it's insane to me. Like, we need to believe in one another. And I think there's an infinite amount of ways that we can approach making the world better, so that other people start to believe that the world, in fact, can be better. That's my little thing here I had written down. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well said, my friend. Yeah, no, you're right. And like, to the point of there being an infinite way to engage, I think that it's really important that when I've said this before, but I'm gonna reiterate the idea of, like, when we tell people to do something, a lot of people's first reaction is like, okay, what? Like, what do I do? So one thing that I am working on, one of the upcoming live discussion panels that I'm putting together is going to be on how to engage in community. Right now, the list of things I have thought about is like 14 items long. I think that's long enough for things to talk about, but I'm sure there's stuff I haven't thought of. But like, and in that sense of just giving people ideas, lists of options, or showing your work, as it were, like, kind of going along and being like, I have done A, B, and C, and this is, the way that I've been able to kind of navigate those challenges. That's what the whole model cyber citizen thing is. Honestly, it's the idea of like, you are presenting a way, a different form of doing things in your lane. You found something that you're passionate about, and not only are you working on it in the real world and actually producing like receipts, but now you've turned around and decided to share with us online your journey. And like, because that exemplifies this idea that yes, it is possible. It can come from anywhere. Inspiration can be anything. And like, there's a near infinite list of things that need done. We just need to have people who are like, yes, that's the thing I'm going to tackle. That's the thing I'm going to do. Like, that's the sauce. But yeah, Lawrence, I would really love to hear from you.
Absolutely. I was about to double dutch my way in there in the first place. So yeah, that's basically our story, how we started. It was really, and I have yet to read this book. I listened to him a couple of times on YouTube and kind of caught a glimpse of what it is, a forecast of it, overcast, if you will. And yes, I'm pleased to find out that I'm on the right track. And I got his 3 steps, John's 3 steps of the citizen book is step 1 is find your community. Step 2, find others that are in your community. In that first community, step 1 is to find people who are like-minded. Find your thing and then find what that looks like in the spectrum of reality. And then step 2 is find other people who exude that same construct of ideology. And then step 3 is to get active doing something in that space and relativity. So I did the same thing. I'm not one of the people who can sit idly in a vehicle and watch it go off track. If we're supposed to be going southwest and you're going northeast, I'm not staying in the car for too long. And that's what the food system was for us. As a married father of 2, and I saw the calamity unfold with just an EBT shortage, or a system breakage in our system. And it was really just, and I'm sorry, I'm not speaking well today, but I hope I can get this out to where it's palatable, man, and it really can stick to you all's bones. I really just made a choice. I saw something that was wrong. I saw the food system was trash. I saw my area, there was nothing really nutrient dense. And I decided right then and there, with no formal education, with no background, with nobody to tell me to do it, I just got up the next morning and I said, I'm going to start growing my own food. It was just that simple. I started to learn and stumble through it. I didn't read the packages. I didn't go to school. I'm YouTube University all the way. I learned how to do it through trial and error. And then I started to find other people. I advanced to that step 2 and I started to find other people. And I had the wonderful idea of, hey, what if we had an app so we can find each other? Because I was going door to door knocking like Jehovah's Witness. And I was really doing that on Saturday and Sunday mornings, giving 3 to 4 hours a day with beating the street to find growers, bakers, and makers in my area, because I figured that I could, extend the workload to other shoulders if I could just find those people. So Farm Fresh 24/7 was birthed, and we can find Damien. We found Damien, integrated ourselves with the movement of hyperlocal food systems. And I thought that was going to be it. I was like, hey, everybody's going to see it. They're going to jump on, and that it's going to be great. Little to my understanding that it wasn't going to be that simple. And we started to really figure out that it wasn't that people were not around or didn't want to do it, didn't want to participate. They weren't educated on how to participate. So that same question you say, people say they want change, but now how? And I really think that the food system is a good place to start to create that framework for the paradigm shift, that repetition that's needed because the paradigm is simply just the framework of our habits. So we're just saying we can develop new habits, and to create that repetition of habits, we have to put it in action. I believe that food is the least barricaded entryway that any of us can join into, whether it's baking your own bread or making your own tinctures or growing your own produce or foraging for your own items that are edible. I believe all of us can take a stance in the food system because we all have to eat as well. But I think it's something that we can do to get in the rhythm of co-creation and aligning ourselves in collaboration with each other. And so again, that's just my stance. This is kind of a social experiment. And we actually created Collectively Sustainable, which is a grassroots movement. And it's kind of the steering committee so that Farm Fresh always has roots around the nation of what we're doing here. We're intentionally spending with one another, we're skill sharing with one another, and we're actually bypassing the big box grocers and starting to invest in our own community with our dollars. That small P that you're talking about, that voting every day with what we spend. And that's just where we are. Like I'm not terribly long-winded today. Today, my words are not really flowing out as eloquently as I would like, and it's frustrating. But yeah, we really have the power, y'all. We really just have to activate something. These talks are wonderful, but we have to all stand up again, find your community, come up with a plan, and just do something.
Absolutely. Well said, my friend. Well said. And first of all, I want to say thank you for joining us. I know you're an East Coast early riser, so like that taken like into account, I understand, and I think you're still speaking quite eloquently, my friends, and speaking truth to power. So thank you for being here again. I really appreciate it. And that goes for everybody who's here in the chat with me. Really, I couldn't do this without you. Honestly, it would just be me chatting into cyberspace if you guys weren't here. So I really appreciate y'all being up on the box with me. And you're absolutely right. It's these directions that we can take are near infinite, and the idea that you can find something that you like, your passion with the food and the growing food and getting into the community is a great way, because we do all eat. It's something that is very connecting for all of us. And so it's a good practice in the small p politics of the thing to kind of, bring about a new source that isn't just the status quo of like, you go to the grocery store, you go to restaurants, you pay for your food, and like, and that money goes out of the economy forever and ever. Like, there's better ways that we can do it, and like, you're exemplifying it and then turning around and being like, here's all the work that I'm doing by like, posting the content that you do. That's model cyber citizen stuff. That's past what I would think the citizen story is. There's no element of like talking about it online that Jon Alexander mentions in his book. But to me personally, showing your work is a real big piece of this pie. So, Miss Brie, it looks like you may have some words. Yes.
One or two. I like the fact that the top of my link in bio says, "Start where you are, use what you have, do what you can." And that really sounds like the synopsis of Lawrence's story, and also really what Tony was talking about beforehand. So like, the beauty of the citizen story is that you are supposed to go out and figure out how you can help, particularly, and like, okay, so my most viral TikTok was talking crap about America on a global stage. And I got a lot of the same questions. Where do I go for this information? What are the best countries? And so after 2 years of doing it, I just went ahead and, did it. I dug into 96 different world rankings and pulled out 24 countries' scores and standardized the data so that, if I'm going to talk crap, am I really right? Are we crazy for thinking that we should be doing better than we're doing? Like, Tony, when we first got here, you were talking about just a general feeling like it feels like we might not be doing something right here. Yeah, the data actually backs that up, and so the fact that we are coming together to even say like, hey guys, like, I know that arguably we are in a place, there is not currently destruction here. We could be doing better, and it starts with us. And
that depends on who you ask about the destruction piece. Depends on who you ask.
Yeah. Still though, it's worth it's worth remembering that it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun joining the citizens or being a citizen because you get to help in the way that you know how. Lawrence, you know food. You woke up one day and everything in your body said, we're going to grow food, okay? And I don't know how to do that, but I'll tell you what, I can mess up a spreadsheet, okay? So, you know, we come together in the ways that we know how, and that's kind of great because you need a lot of people to run the world together, you know? It gives me a lot of hope to think about it that way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll say, like, you know, what Tony said at the very top of this, which does come from the book, is the fact that we are collectively smarter together than any one person on their own. And so that meeting of the minds, the idea that we can sit in community together and recognize that, you know, Susan has, you know, X, Y, and Z strong suits while Buck has A, B, and C, and together they can actually make this, like, this event happen or these things and da da da. And it's like, and it's more than just one or two people. It's all of us. It's all of us finding our place, our, you know, the thing that motivates us to act outside of being paid for it, maybe, like something that we feel genuinely motivates us to move, and it doesn't matter if there's a paycheck at the end of it or not. I think that, I mean, is maybe a piece of the discussion, because, like, the citizen story doesn't do away with capitalism. Like, in fact, he very clearly states that he sticks away from the terms of, like, capitalism and socialism and communism, and, like, he uses consumer story and citizen story as kind of platforms, because it's not about money specifically. It's about our engagement in society together and like our motivations. It can happen through, like, purchases don't have to go away, but, like, the essence of, we can buy our way through, you know, we can buy our way into activism. For instance, there's this really great part in the book, in the earlier part of the book, where he talks about the day that the consumer story ate activism was when, Bob Geldof, through mutual aid, through the, was it First Aid? I can't remember the name of the concert. It was before my time. I'm sorry. I'm a youngin'. Right? Help me out here, Tony. I see you looking. Help me out here.
Were you talking about the REM concert?
No, I'm talking about
the one that was in South America? Because that's the part I was thinking of.
Yes, the South America one. For the people in
Live Aid? Are you talking about Live Aid?
Live Aid. Live Aid. Yes, I'm talking about Live Aid. Because he talks about how Bob Geldof... here, I'll put myself back up. He talks about how Bob Geldof basically said to the world over that in order for these people to have a good Christmas, all you need to do is buy this record. If you buy this record, these people will be happier for it. That's the day that the consumer story ate activism, because at that point it became, if I threw enough money at it, then this problem will be solved. And, like, that is a sense of apathy, you know, because, like, if you just have enough money in the bank, then surely all the problems can be solved at some point. And, like, that's a really low resolution, really. And
that's
so
part of the problem.
Yeah, it's exactly part of the problem. And so and that is also part of the status quo that, you know, the consumer story wants to keep us, like, holden to. It's like, you know, you can purchase your way out of your woes. And it's like, no, you need to become involved and active and, like, not stationary and letting things happen to you and being reactive. You need to get proactive, that sort of deal. So I recommend the book. I butchered that whole piece, but I recommend it.
Listen, engagement fixes everything. Engagement fixes everything. Right? I mean, I'm not sure who gets credit for this quote, but evil doesn't succeed because bad people do bad things. Evil is succeeding right now because good people are sitting on the sidelines with no coping skills, no conflict resolution skills, and no courage to stand up and stand for what's right. That's why we're suffering. That's why the military-industrial complex can lose 60% of an $800 billion budget and nobody flinch. That's why all of this corruption can happen in our face, because we don't have the coping skills to stand up and say this shit is wrong. We don't want to offend people on our Facebook page by talking politics. It's my job as a member of the community that I live in to serve and to stand up for the shared values that we have, the shared values of decency and the pursuit of truth and hard work and fairness and kindness, compassion, critical thinking, accountability, responsibility. Those should be things that none of us or all of us should agree on. Those shouldn't be controversial. In anything, any subject, I should be pursuing the truth. So I'm going to listen to you twice as much as I speak so I can understand, not wait for my turn to speak, and understand where you're coming from so we can find a solution to whatever that issue is, whether it's food safety, economics, education, immigration, whatever. We can fix it. But good people are sitting back on the sideline waiting for the next Dr. King, waiting for the next Kennedy, waiting for the next person. Damn it, you have got to do your duty. Own your title. What are your titles? I'm an uncle, I'm a cousin, I'm a neighbor, I'm a citizen, I'm a husband, I'm a nephew. And every one of those titles, I got to do the responsibilities and the work, or those relationships suffer. And there is no getting around that. And everybody wants to dance around it. So obviously, I'm incredibly passionate about this piece because I can see us heading toward fascism, right? I can see us heading toward the catastrophe that if that SMEX offender, that criminal, that seditionist, if that dude gets elected and all of the people behind him, all of those people, those sinister people who wrote Project 2025 and all that, if those people get into power again, it's a wrap. We think it's bad now. This goes away. We won't have the ability to question our government if we're an authoritarian state, right? This totally goes away. So we've got to take action. We've got to decide where you want to take action. What are you passionate about? Is it youth enrichment? Is it food? Is it economics? Is it politics? Is it prison reform? Whatever your issue is, go get involved. Go find those people and start doing something. Because all of us doing a little bit, a lot will get done. But right now, we just got people throwing their hands up in the air saying, "Oh, it is what it is. You know, I can't do that. Let me just send a donation." No, that's bullshit. We've got to commit to this work.
I agree with you in a lot of that, my friend. I really do. I want to quickly point to this comment that dropped in a little while ago. It says the wrong people want power and the right people don't want the responsibility. And I think that there is a large conversation to have around that I'm just going to kind of really quickly pick a little piece of. And it's the fact that our representation of what power is today is incredibly skewed. It's twisted. It's not exactly the, pick up the torch and walk into the darkness that leadership should be. And because of that, a lot of the good people who are wanting this change but don't feel like they should be involved because inevitably it becomes corrupt. It's the story that's being told, but that's not the only reality of the story that's there. And I think that leads into like what he was saying about the fact that whatever level you get into this, when it comes to the big P politics of it all, yes, it matters. It absolutely matters to varying degrees for lots of things, whether we're talking about the people we're voting in or like the initiatives and ballots and like all of the other stuff that like we get to decide on as a citizenry. Like it's important. It really is. But it's not the only answer. It's not the only answer. So like getting involved with your community through the food projects, through the youth groups, through the other things, like going micro instead of macro can actually do a hell of a lot more than I think a lot of people think. So I think that is kind of the expanse of it. And Tony, I'm going to turn it over to you while I catch up on messages.
Yeah, I think the big P politics it involves everyone, but with regard to the statements on truth, since it's not for everyone to get into and to the nitty gritty to read what Congress is doing and how it's going to affect people and try to understand it in a macro sense to how it applies to us all. It's not necessarily for everyone. They don't have the want or the care, and I know we should, but I've never figured out how to make someone care about something. I'm an artist. Believe me, I've tried. Here's my song. Anyway, I think the big part is making something feel like home And this is the other bookmark that I had in here. And this is a beautiful section where he's talking about less the nation, more the home. Citizenship as status is a possession some have, but many lack. Having citizenship here. But citizenship as practice is something we can all do. Just as official citizens have only their votes to contribute, they have only their nationality with which to identify and to defend. By contrast, true citizens have homes, communities of place and interest, often overlapping, in which they engage and to which they contribute in myriad ways. And when we think of the statement like, somebody can feel like home, a certain smell can feel like home, the presence of a certain type of energy can feel like home. And that's really what we're longing for here, is like an end to this constant disruption of the peace that we should all know as home. We all have a right to feel what it feels like to walk into a place and know that mom had a good day and there's like pie or cookies going and she's got her friggin' James Taylor or Luther Vandross or like whatever she was jamming to back in the day. And like, you knew it was like good and it felt home and it felt safe there. And everyone deserves that. And to create that, I do not believe it will be sculpted by bureaucrats. I refuse to believe it. I can't believe it unless we take an active approach to becoming the bureaucrats, which is where I feel like big P politics really, it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody to become an elected official or a bureaucrat or to be so inundated with their campaigns and help them. It's a lot. It's a lot of information. It's a lot to ask of people. And I don't think it's for everybody. At least in my experience, I've found that to be true. But the thing we all can do is establish, like, what does it feel like to be home and to be safe? And how can I not only preserve that for myself and the people I love, but how can I start to facilitate that so that it grows in this petri dish that we call human existence? That's the citizen story to me. It's less of my national identity. I'm proud to be here. Like, it's cool. But I mean, I didn't necessarily pick it. I was just like, I became conscious one day and I started walking around doing stuff and learning things. So at the end of the day, we can become the Mr. Rogers or the LeVar Burton. Like, it's like we can become that wholesome thing that we used to see that so many of us thought was like real. And then you get older and you realize, like, wait, that wasn't just make-believe, was it? Like, was that make-believe? Like, does nobody actually want to do this? Was this just something we like to pretend to do right before the fucking Price is Right came on in 1993? What is going on? And it really does boil down to, I got to make sure my head is on right and my gut health is good and I feel good about my life so that I can go and start to create a larger home of connected homes. And we start to think of it in this way, we change the world regardless of regime change, boots on the ground, natural disasters, comets and tidal waves. If we're lucky enough to make it through any of that stuff, this is what we're going to have to do anyway. And if we ain't got that shit on lockdown, we are fucked. Pardon my French, but it's just true. And so I think that's why it's important to do it now before the big oh shit, and I think that's been my message to people all along. And I'll pass it to you, Tripp.
I think you're absolutely right. And actually, I'm going to pass it to Miss Tiffany because she's been waiting patiently to say some words, I think. Hi, dear.
Hi. So, I actually had some things to say going back a bit. So I'm going to tap on three things, and I'll try to do it as quickly as I can. First, when it comes to not being able to buy your way out of or buy your way through citizenhood, my foster kid thing I do every year, I ask people to spend money, right? And it's not the ideal way to change a child's life. Love is the best way to do that. But in the absence of love, making them know they're remembered, it's something I ask people to do. People spend $400,000, $500,000 every year supporting the 2,600 kids we give Christmas to. But at the same time, I also couldn't do it without the 20 volunteers that come and all night long, every single night for 21 days until Christmas Eve, deliver gifts from midnight until 5 a.m., right? So it's not always the money, right? The time, the energy, and the effort come together to make change. And sometimes it requires money, and sometimes it requires that capitalism. But that's because we've created the expectation that if they don't have the right thing under the tree, they're not loved. And again, in the absence of real love or real care, that's what they have. And those things do matter. to the kid who didn't have a new pair of shoes for 6 years and only bought at Goodwill, got my butt kicked for it. It matters, okay? 2, we talked about how not everybody can understand every issue, but I do believe, like, not everybody wants to understand everything, not everybody can understand everything. I disagree. I think that there are specific people that are incredibly good and incredibly talented at breaking down very difficult issues for people, which I understand is a talent that I have. Private equity is not an easy concept, but it is a talent that I have and a talent that I owe to people. If I want to make a change, I have to take, like, the opportunities that I'm given to use my voice to help people understand things, to use my ability to help people understand things, to make a change. And so, big P politics. I get asked at least 100 times, Pippi, stop asking me for things. She keep asking me to buy stuff, sorry. Pippi says hi, Tony. She says hi to Ruby too. The people that want to hold on to their power in politics are addicted to it. They're not there to change anything. And I absolutely believe most of the politicians that have been there for 6 years right now, at some point got in there thinking they were going to do some good for somebody. And at a certain time, decided that they were willing to sell everything they had to give and their constituents and the change they could make for the convenience of power and money. Also because they were so jaded by the reality that they couldn't fundamentally change anything because power had taken hold of everyone. And it was a group power seek. I get asked at least 100 times in every single video I post, when are you going to run for office? The day I believe I could do more good in there than I'm doing out here. I don't believe that right now. But if we created a tidal wave of people that wanted to go and make a change, I would go. I would go with you in a heartbeat. Right now, I can't change anything in there. I can change the whole goddamn world out here with enough of us.
But you don't know that.
Right? We can take their power away. Right? So, well, you can say I don't know that, but the reality is, as it is right now in the world we live in, not in the world I want to create, but in the Washington I would be entering. I worked for a senator for 6 years. I know exactly what would happen if I went in there. I know exactly what would happen. 1, they would ice me out because I wouldn't take IPAC's money. 2, I would not sell out my constituents. 3, they would make sure they ran somebody that would. 4, I would get bogged down in committees. I would never see a bill hit the floor. And I would spend all of my time trying to raise more money so I could try to stand up to them. That's what would happen. That is what would happen. I wish it weren't so, but if we got enough of us to run, that would change.
Well, you could
But
also spend those 2 years exposing all of that shit from the inside
You're right.
out, doing both.
You're right.
So you
Sure.
could do both.
Sure.
So imagine what you could
Sure.
expose and tell people about and turn the lights on so all them damn roaches start running. Because that's exactly what's got to happen. We have to run. If we don't run, if we don't participate, if we sit up here and suggest that us not being able to change it from the outside or from the inside, we've got to do it. That's the only way it's going to
I
get
agree with you.
changed.
But I can expose most of what's going on in there from where I'm at. Again, I would love to run for office if I believed I could fundamentally change things the way I'm changing them right now. I'm not saying that everybody has the ability to explain private equity or to go to speak to the FTC. I'm testifying before Congress right now. The average senator or House of Representatives member that gets in there is lucky to get 1 committee or 2 committee appointments in their first term. On those committees, you're at the lowest rank, which means you're not even allowed to introduce anything, which means I can't impact a single thing in a bill in my first term in the first 2 years. If I did everything right, if I was taking all the right money, even there it would be difficult. All right. But out here, I can go to every one of those senators and I can apply immense pressure. I can also go to the FTC and I can also meet with the House Small Business and Entrepreneurs Committee. And I can also fundamentally go to the events. James and I were lucky enough to go to Rescue the Republic this weekend. Not saying everybody should agree with anything that happened at Rescue the Republic. There was tons of stuff I loved and tons of stuff I was like, yeah, that's not for me. But what I did see was 40,000 people in a crowd and not a single incident, not one single incident of anybody being hateful, not one theft, not one argument, not one fight, not one thing the police needed to do. They were bored to death standing around while everybody was there trying to learn from one another. The diversity of speakers on the stage were politicians, former politicians, everyday working class people, people selected like you and me from podcasts and TikToks that people have chosen to elevate because they thought about their voices. Women who got mad because their kids were being poisoned by food and went on and made 1 viral video and now they're speaking to the world, right? Like that happened this weekend. There are people influencing a great many things. And mixed in there were Trump and Tulsi trying to convince people that they're vetting people for Trump and they're going to try to make a difference. I'm not saying that that's for everybody either, but I am watching people galvanized to make change they see fit. 90% of what was talked about this weekend was censorship and poison in our food. Okay? Those are things we mostly agree on, right? They talked about the paralyzing nature of Washington and the grip that corporations have on every single politician. 40,000 people, all different walks of life, all different people, all different socioeconomic paths. They came from as far away as California. Hell, there were people there from Hawaii, and there were people there that came from the UK and the Netherlands. I spoke to a bunch of people that had come all the way from Korea. Like, they came from everywhere, and they all found things they agreed on. So it is happening. It is happening. And I think that big P politics has to happen. And it has to happen in a wave. The second I believe I can do more from that side than I'm doing out here, I'll do it. Sign me up. I'm also in a district that would be really difficult to make a difference in because our district is wholly owned by one party. I would be very, very difficult to run here. And it would take a year or 2 years of my life away from doing this. But I do feel like I can make a difference, and I am trying to make a difference. You know, I have the limited voice that I'm given by this platform and the people that have given it to me. I'm grateful for it. I believe everybody, if you have the ability to break down a difficult subject and help people understand why it needs to change, you have the obligation to do it. It would be much, much easier for me to go back to teaching babies and signing NDAs, taking settlement offers instead of traveling and testifying. To give you guys an idea about the world I'm living in right now. Last week, JP Morgan Chase, the bank, filed a lawsuit because the private equity firm I am fighting sent an unlawful, illegal, not signed by any judge, fake subpoena to them to try to steal my bank records.
Oh, wow.
And JP Morgan Chase caught it, hired a law firm in Illinois and sued on my behalf. I don't have a very high opinion of JP Morgan Chase, but today that's the world I'm living in. That's the world where I live, right? There are monsters under my bed and around every corner, and I'm never going to stop talking no matter what they do to me, ever, because people like you make that possible.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much. First of all, I want to say it's strange. It's really strange the bedfellows we can end up with sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's not a space that you really want to have allyship. But hey, like, it's in the right direction, I suppose. Like, thanks for dropping that tea on us. Absolutely love that. So guys, we're already like hitting the wall to the point where we're almost going to do last words. This conversation can go on for hours and hours and hours. Like, we're, as always, it's barely a scratch of the surface, but I think we've covered some good territory. I think there's this idea, like Tiffany just said, she can do more in the positions she's in currently than she could from political office. If that ever changes, great. And like, I love the idea of like running with friends. Like, don't be wrong. If like Tony, Tiffany, Brie, if like we all wanted to like just be like, all right, we're all gonna run for senators on the same year, let's do it.
But again, why couldn't we do that? We have that. There are people here with millions of followers. I got a shit following. I don't have a significant following, but there are people here with millions of people who, if you gave them action items, if you said, hey, here's what you need to do, here's what needs to happen, you can't just be upset and quit. You've got to develop the resilience to be an activist and do this work and invest in a future. That's the only answer. Whether you, again, you pick your space, but we have got to take the government back by running for office and getting in there and doing what's right. That is really what ultimately how this stuff gets fixed. Now, does it happens at a grassroots level. It happens with your city council. It happens with your parks department. Happens with your mayor, your city council. It happens with the judges, your DA that you elect in your city. But we as citizens have got to engage and do both. Why can't you do both? Why can't you keep your social media platform and run for an office? Jeff Johnson? Didn't Jeff Johnson, he's a U.S. rep who has a big following here that everybody was pissed at when they banned TikTok? I mean, you can do both. We have to do both.
So here's what I'm going to say about that. I'm going to jump in on this right here because Yeah, no, it's really weird that Jeff Jackson still has a TikTok and considering like so I know people who have worked in like local government, like state local government. They cannot have TikTok on like the same phone that they have like their work emails and stuff on. They can have a separate device that has TikTok and like not any of their work stuff. But like that's like, and like neither here nor there. But like my point being is that yes, the government is an institution that controls a lot of different things. Top down, local level, all the way up. There are things about this institution that we can change by working within its confines. However, I really feel like a lot of the citizen story, the progression into the bright and shiny future, is going to look like not necessarily dismantling this government, but deeply changing the way that it is structured. Because like right now, to be perfectly honest, like I don't want to pay taxes if it's just going to go to arms and munitions to hurt other people. And like if we had an active, informed citizenry and had like a government that actually was vitalized by such a thing, instead, every year when taxes came due, we would have like a checklist. I want to, education, infrastructure, this, that, and the other thing. We would have a say in where our taxes went. That's a more active, involved citizenry within the government. But we don't get that right now. And it would be a lot of people's hard work, time, effort, and energy in order to produce such results. And I don't think that it can be done in a vacuum with 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people running. I think it would literally be a whole coalition, maybe even a brand new party. But like, we see how this 2-party system also, real quick, just as a side note, another one of the panel discussions I have coming up in the future, actually it's going to be the week after Election Tuesday. We're going to be talking about ranked choice voting. We're going to be talking about the Interstate National Popular Vote Compact. And we're also going to be talking about anti-corruption laws. So tune in for that one. But yeah, because it's, again, all connected. But like the structures that we have for ourselves are limiting. And like the citizen story as it is, as a whole, can be much more than that. It can be much more inside and outside the bounds of what has been constructed. And so that's where I want to go with that one. And on that note,
behind that, people,
sorry?
Look, the vast majority of people would be behind what you just said about taxes, about simplifying taxes. That, hey, look, here's where I want my taxes to go. When I think about my homeowner association out here where I live, 1,700 homes, about $1.2 million in the budget that gets spent every year, right? It's a lot of money, but it's not a lot of money, right? But we can clearly see where that $1.2 million goes in terms of landscaping contract, pool contract, maintenance, reserve fund. We can clearly see it, and nobody has a problem with it. And so our federal government is really no different. It's just more zeros, right? It's just more zeros. And all we have to do is freaking audit of the Pentagon, slash their damn budget by 60% because they can't account for 60%. So since you can't account for it, you don't get it. And we'll use the other $500 billion to fund everything else we need to do in this country. That's just 1 year's budget. This shit is easy. But the fact that people just won't engage, right? We won't engage. We'll talk about it. We'll analyze it. We'll have all this intellectual masturbation over it. But when it comes to say, get involved, run for office, do something, everybody's got a reason why they won't. So again, we've got to break that inertia. We've got to break this victim mentality, like we can't do anything, because we could change this shit in an election cycle. We can make huge change in an election cycle just by running regular average people and running your platform here on social media and saying, look, this is what I'm going to do. I am not a politician. I am your neighbor, and I'm running to fix this shit. And if I get in here, that's what I will do. I mean, that could happen. That could totally happen with social media.
Right. No, you're right. We have a groundswell. I think one of the main problems that we have also when talking specifically about social media would be short attention spans. You know what I'm saying? Like the flavor of the week. I was actually just looking at my like you can actually go back to the full year and see like what in the last year all these different spikes and stuff as far as our viewership and stuff. My most popular stuff was the flowers are blooming in Antarctica. The push to get people radicalized and up in arms about the fact that like there are people, and it's a relatively short list if you really think about it, like the people at the toppity tip top, who at least bear a brunt of the responsibility, and in a evolutionary sort of way, pointing to that. It was not only salacious, but it was like a flavor of the month kind of thing. And so like getting people's eyes on the prize for a vision that is 4, 8, 10, 12, 50 years down the road, like a real future vision. I don't know how to do it. That's one of the big ponderables that I do for, like in my alone time. Like what is the great essence that can like really shake the populace awake to where we can plan for a future that we actually want to see, because everybody's just doom and gloom, and we don't have to be that way. And I would love to keep this conversation going every which way it's been going, but hey, look at that, we're in the last half hour. Boy, how exciting. We went to a lot of places. I'm going to have a great time cutting this up and making posts of it. I want to again thank every single person who has been in the live with me this evening. We're going to go ahead and start doing last words now. We're going to go down the side here. So, Lawrence, you're going to go ahead and start us off. First of all, before we get started there, though, I just want to take a moment and say that this is all connected. The last 2 live panels I did, the next 6 that I have planned, it's all of it is one big conversation of how we step up into our reality, because we are the adults in the room now. Like, like a lot of my perspective comes from this idea of like remembering as a teenager and as a child being like, adults are going to handle it. Adults are going to handle it. And now at 34 years old, I am the adult in the room. And so this is how one of many ways I have chosen to actually step up and do my part. And every single one of these people that are in the panel today have also stepped up and done their part. And I hope that maybe I've inspired some people in the chat to start thinking about things a little bit differently. So on that note, I want to go ahead and turn it over to Lawrence. Again, thank you for being here, my friend. I truly, truly appreciate it.
I appreciate the opportunity once again, and I really appreciate David honing in on action-based solutions and getting active. And I'm just going to leave it with an actionable cause. Farm Fresh 24/7 is free to download, free to post. If you're somebody out there who eats food and you feel like our food system is compromised and you feel like we need more ethical procuration and you want to shop with people in your area rather than the big box, download the Farm Fresh 24/7 app. If there's nobody in your app, get on Marketplace or Facebook groups or anywhere that you can spread the word, your local farmers market, your local butchers, a bread maker, and just tell them there's a way for them to post for free and find people in their area who will support them on purpose, intentionally, right? So again, Farm Fresh 24/7, that's the action step. It's free to download again. And if you can just spread the word, if you're somebody who is great with words and articulation and painting a picture, you can surely help us spread the message. We are a small startup. We don't make money off this, again, hence the freeness. And we really just feel like the food system is something that we can do right now. We don't have to wait for an election day. We can literally vote every day with our dollars intentionally. And I appreciate it again once, just having the time to share space. And again, my energy is low. Claire's finna go lay down in a minute, but again, I appreciate it, Tripp. All the work you've done thus far is not going unnoticed. Hell of a job.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much for being here again. And yeah, I hope you enjoy your evening and sleep very, very well. Tony, my friend, it's your turn to speak some final words. Thank you again for being here. I could not do this without you. Oh, you got it. You got it.
What an introduction. Thanks for doing this, Tripp. I appreciate these types of panels, and these are extremely important conversations. Before I get to the last point, I'll really quickly just want to add on, can everyone help in a directly political way? Yes. However, there are so many things that require education so that people are illuminated to the facts and what's really happening. And now the problem that we're in right now is, think about the epiphany everybody just had over the last handful of years about the fucking food pyramid. What a heartbreaker, man. What a heartbreaker. Everybody was lied to, straight up. And information is tough. And so, yes, they can, but I feel like it's, at this point, you do what you can in the act of helping other people see that the real information of what's going on and what it actually means to be an active citizenry, right? And the main point I want to make is the flow chart. Somebody mentioned the flow chart. When you break down a power paradigm and we start wherever you want to start, you want to talk about global financiers, we can start there. But as it goes down, as it trickles down, you eventually make your way to yourself. And if I need to show up in my community, like, I got to make sure my head's on right. Like, I got to make sure that, like, I'm coming to this space, like, ready to walk with people and maybe learn something along the way too. And that my biggest struggle in life has been my conceit, my ego, my hubris. Like, I struggle so much with just being excited about having a piece of information that I feel like could help somebody see some illuminated truth, and yet it comes off as condescension. And so my journey in this life is figuring out, how can I balance my ego? How can I show people that I have a big enough heart that I actually want to help, right? And that is step one. And our culture is not breeding that type of thought. And when we're in the spaces of redefining governments, we don't have to look too much further than the founding fathers. They were reading Aristotle, they were reading Voltaire, they were picking from all over the orchard, trying to figure out how to make sense of how a civilization is actually supposed to run. Now, we can say whatever we want about them, but we're here now. And I think that particular lesson is a valid one to carry with us into this conversation, because not only does it mean we're borrowing from history, we're borrowing from one another. But in order to even, the price of entry into that space where it actually works is that I work on myself so that I can do his last parting message in this book, which is, imagine, how would you spend your time if you actually believed in yourself and those around you? What would you do in this time if you truly believed in yourself and those around you? If I believe in myself, if I feel good about myself, I'm going to be a much better candidate to show up in my community. Doesn't mean you got to be fixed perfect or anything like that. I'm not implying that. But step one is acknowledging that, like, none of us actually know what's going on unless you're there when it happens. Like, since 2001 and the day that shall not be named for the sake of the algorithm, things have changed. Things have changed, right? And we have to take things from as many sources as possible in order to discover any semblance of truth. And so in that, and the frustration everybody feels, my landing plane moment here is, I know what I see. And what I see around me are people that actually are good people and just want to know something to do and how they plug into the system. But none of these things work if I haven't actually done the thing inside of me that makes me actually want to be a puzzle piece.
Yep.
And not some autonomous, fuck it, I got this on my own, or I got it licked or figured out, you know? Like, we all have to be willing to become a puzzle piece first, or else it won't work. I guess that's my little contribution. Thanks for having us, Tripp.
Absolutely, my friend. Thank you so much for that closing piece and for bringing such fire with the book, because I really just, it's good stuff. David, thank you again for being here and for all of the work that you're doing on your boots on the ground initiatives in Texas, where you are, is causing real ripple effects of change. So thank you for that, first and foremost, and for being here too.
Well, thank you, Tripp. Thank you for the forum. Thank you for inviting me, including me. Thank you for your patience with me. Obviously, I'm incredibly passionate about this because I know the peril that we face. We are, I see the existential crisis that we are in. And I don't know if I've said it here before, but look, you don't operate the same way when you're in a place of crisis. You don't operate the same way as you do it when you're in a place of comfort. And I have been in a place of crisis for probably the last 8 years, if not longer, seeing the bad changes in our society, seeing our village destroyed, seeing our humanity destroyed, seeing us become more selfish and less cooperative and egotistical, and our villages not work, and our parents not work, and our systems not work. And so, again, when I started the Smith Foundation and I created the Light It Up campaign, the Block Party, Rock the Block Party, the Operation Mama, the Brothers Brunch, the Winter Circle, youth mentor programs. There's all of these things Tony's talking about. We've got a personal development program that helps people to develop mental toughness and personal development and emotional intelligence. I've written a book. I'm an author. I have a book called Straighten Up and Fly Right. It's a roadmap on how you find yourself and you find your purpose and you find your non-negotiable values, so you can then go out and live a life consistent with those values. So regardless of how the world changes, you still operate from the value of honesty. You still operate from the value of hard work. You operate from the value of the pursuit of truth, right? It doesn't matter what happens around me. I'm still going to be honest. I'm still going to pursue the truth. I'm still going to be fair. I'm still going to be kind. I'm still going to be compassionate. I'm still going to be collaborative. And that's what we've lost, because now people think they have to change who they are because the world changed. No, we still have to be honest. We still have to stand up against bullies. We still have to if your silence is consent. And so my takeaway is, look, I need people. I need help. We have the anti-apathy campaign. We have the Rebuild the Village initiative. We have citizen reform campaign. I need people who are ready to get to work. People who are like, look, I want to do something. Well, I got something for you to do. I need help producing the next block party. I need help producing the next youth mentor program. I need help producing the next Operation Mama, where we go and help a senior change some light bulbs and ceiling fans and garbage disposals and cut their grass, right? I need bodies for that. And so I need people who are ready to say, hey, look, I'm tired of talking about it. I'm ready to get to work. So if you're ready to get to work and you want to do something, you want to make a difference, like my page. Contact me. I'm in this place of trying to build a website and a landing page. So all I got right now is this TikTok and my YouTube channel. But if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, let's go, man. I'm ready for the people who are ready to get to work and just ready to be coachable. Because that's all we need, is people who just say, hey, look, I don't know what I can do, but I got hands, I got a heart, I got a body, and I'm willing. So we can teach you how to do something. But doing nothing is not an option. And we can't just keep bitching and moaning and problem identifying here on social media. We've got to start putting some rubber to the road. We got to start running candidates. We got to start running for mayor, city council person, working on a Parks and Rec committee. I went to a damn PTA Daisy's Brownies celebration yesterday. And I saw a whole bunch of parents watching their little girls. My god baby she was a Daisy and she got to be a Brownie. And I was just marveling at all of these folks who had volunteered to be Girl Scout leaders. And I'm just like, we already have the mechanisms. We're just not using them. So doing nothing is not an option, y'all. We got plenty of stuff to do. Stop talking about it, start being about it.
Amen. Well said, my friend. And yeah, it's all to put in there. Miss Brie, I really just appreciate you coming up and taking some time with us today. And
that's my close.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Miss Brie, your ability to just share your natural inquisitiveness, I think, is one of the things I love most. Don't get me wrong, there's so much to love about you, but like the idea that you have a passion for knowing and then you turn around and share so freely is just amazing. And so I thank you for that, as well as being here tonight.
Yeah, cha. I actually had to update Tripp because I moved everything from the Viv website over to my link in bio now, because I just wanted to all be free and right there in front of your face. So please go check it out. There's graphics on there. What I realize is that, not everybody may enjoy a quarterly checkup of the St. Louis Fed to find out what the U.S. household distribution is. They might not enjoy that, but I do. And so the start where you are, use what you have, do what you can is important. But like David said, another part of it is just showing up. Just, hey, I can help, and I've also, learned from Tiffany is that when you present somebody with, please do this, people will do it, and so you find what matters the most to you, and then you tackle it. You ask for help along the way. And that's really being a good citizen. It's not a super hard thing. One thing I will say though, because we ended up on this live in particular, and like I have been on lives with every one of you before, now that I think about it. And the people in this live were absolutely instrumental to me getting on live in the first place, and so in the last week or so, since Marcellus Williams, I've been low on the hope. I've been a little low on the hope, and so I want to make a testament real quick to community, because I had a lot of random followers on TikTok, you guys in the live. It's like people checking in. Please don't get discouraged. Please make sure you remember that, progress is still, it's forward. It's so slow. It's so very slow, but it's still forward. And I think being a citizen is just wanting to be a part of the progress. So if you are, then get up and do something, please. Yeah. And thanks for being here. Yeah.
Absolutely. I really do quickly want to say, before I bring Tiffany up for her final words, is that I had somebody in my comment section of a video, actually of one of these clips, talk about how Jon Stewart said that changing the world is a lunchbox job, something you have to show up to every day. And so, I think that's really important to kind of wedge in here, because I think that's what we're collectively doing. And then Miss Tiffany, thank you again. I can't say enough praise words about you, my dear. Everything you do is fantastic. And I thank you for just moving forward through your life with conviction, and also for being here. Thank you.
I appreciate the invitation. I appreciate the opportunity. I wish I could have been here from the beginning, but I had some special needs kids that needed special time with me. I truly do believe that right now we have a society that is overwhelmed, but also desperately seeking real meaning in a world that is right now feeling very superficial. And I think that we're going to see that increase. I think we're going to see, I believe we're looking at generations that are trying to become more mindful, are waking up to things that we were not allowed to wake up to because we were denied access to the information that would have allowed us to wake up. We're doing it later, but they're going to do it earlier. And with each generation that we can educate earlier, we can change everything. I personally am watching things change in private equity. I'm personally watching things change with the monsters I fight. I was in court last week testifying for some people that they're suing, some more small business owners they're destroying. And I was there and I watched the difference in their courtroom demeanor now, knowing I was there and what I would do with what I saw. It was very different from what happened to me. Very different. I'm watching the FTC and their responses. I'm watching myself walk up to politicians and them recognize where I'm at and what I'm doing. And that's not just me. People are getting their own voice. We don't need somebody to give it to us anymore. We can go out and make a voice for ourselves by educating people and giving them access. People don't have to elevate people that bring heavy stuff like we do. Everyone in here comes here oftentimes with heavy, heavy conversations. It'd be so much easier to swipe, right? But people have chosen to elevate voices like ours, to give us platforms, to listen, to tune in, to subscribe, to follow, to repost, to share. Because despite the fact that it would be easier to swipe, they want meaning and they want things to be better for the ones that come after them and for themselves. I believe that we are capable of giving people what the world has tried to convince us we're either not entitled to or we can't afford. I believe that Farm Fresh is doing that. I believe Catalyst, you're doing that. I believe everyone here is doing that. I'm watching 5,000 people submitting letters to the FTC. We have another round of FTC letters coming in the next 3 weeks. I believe every one of you is going to show up and submit. I already worked on it. It's ready to go. When I launch it next week, I think you guys will show up. And the FTC, right now, they have taken action on 3 issues they had not looked at since 2007 because nobody had showed up the last 3 times they asked. We changed that, and it was free. We changed that, and the lobbyists couldn't stop us. They couldn't make me stop talking, right? And you know, there are dark corners, right? I still get about 3 emails a day from the DNC offering me money to just sell out and say what I'm told. That's hard. I could really use the money. I know it's happening. I imagine it's happening on the other side too. I don't get offered money from them. But I imagine it's happening on both sides. But we're still here choosing to do what's right. Not everybody. But the more of us that do it, the more people are going to be motivated by it. And I'm going to close out with a very, very shameless plug. I'm going to put a comment down here right now, carefully drafted. My foster kids drive is starting in, Christmas is only 11 weeks away. I don't know if you guys know that. I know it's terrifying. But most years, we've always had a big, huge warehouse, a 20,000 square foot warehouse donated. It burned down last year. Last year, somebody donated the money for our warehouse. We haven't gotten anyone to do that this year. And I only have 2 weeks to raise $2,800. They're renting us the warehouse for only $1,400 a month. It's usually $15,000. They're just making us cover the insurance. So if anyone wants to give to help us lock down the warehouse for this year, to process 2,600 kids' Christmas presents and 20 vans going out at night with gifts, I put it in the comments. $5, $1, I don't care. Whatever you guys give, it'll help. And I'd appreciate it. And if not, you know, watch for my videos and share them when it's time. Because I'm about 4 weeks away from stopping talking about private equity and starting talking about Christmas magic for a month. And I'll appreciate everybody's willingness to ride with me on that journey, because it makes all the difference in the world. But thank you guys for giving me the platform. Thank you for giving me the voice. Thank you guys for being my ride or dies. Thank you for elevating what I try to do. And thank you for allowing me to help elevate what you do. It's a privilege. I'm grateful. And I think we're making a difference. And I hope everyone in the audience is choosing something you think you can educate someone on. And you've decided you want to try to make a difference. Whether it's your neighbor or your followers or your family, whatever it is. Pick somebody, choose something you know about or you learned here, and tell someone about it. That's all it takes. That's it.
Absolutely well said. Great way to finish strong, I'd say. And you're right. Call to action is definitely needed. What a wonderful conversation that was. It went so many different places. There's so much love and respect and beauty in the room. It was fantastic. And to the call of action, everybody who sat in this room has a choice. We all have choices every single day. But to get involved in something that you're passionate about that's going to do good for this world is something that right now doesn't have to take a lot of your time. Maybe it's just finding what you're passionate about, but like search for it. Start actively kind of dipping your toes into the path, because like I'll tell you, as somebody who's been on this journey for about 1.5 years or so, it's wild, man. You start walking in a direction, and then before I know it, I've got this pace moving, and look where we are now, having this wonderful conversation with people that are standing in their life with conviction and moving forward in a way that's going to do better for the community around them. And if loud enough, all of us as a whole. So again, I want to say thank you to all of my panelist guests for being here this evening. It was incredible. I really appreciate you taking the time and spending your energy with me. That also goes for everybody who was in the comment section. Thank you so much for making this space one that was a place of respect and good times. And hopefully we are inspired. Hopefully we learned a little bit. Hopefully we can go into tomorrow with visions of a brighter future ahead, because that's really the thing of it. In the last few minutes, I want to take a moment and tell you about next live discussion panel. It's kind of an amalgamous one as well. We're going to be talking about redefining progress and pacing ourselves for the work ahead. It's kind of tangentially connected because, again, everything's connected. But we'll be talking about what progress is going to look like. Everybody has these pie in the sky ideas about how we want to see a utopian subset. We want to see a certain thing played out in life. We're going to talk about what breaking that down into actionable steps will look like, and what pacing ourselves along that sort of road is going to take. I'm lining up some amazing guests for that one as well. I really appreciate everyone who's taken the time to sit with me and enjoy this conversation. Thank you so much. I hope I inspired some of you, many of you, who knows. And I think I'm going to end on that note. So until next time, be well, fellow citizens. And thank you, genuinely thank you for being here.